Good morning, PSC members and panelists. Welcome to the PSC Fall Pre Retirement Webinar. We are here to ensure that you are prepared for the important transition to retirement. If there's one thing you should not procrastinate about, it is planning for retirement. I'm Felicia Wharton. I'm a faculty member at the Brooklyn Educational Opportunity Center, which is administered by City Tech and the PSC Treasurer. What can I say about retirement? Well, it's not my time yet, but it's your time. And you will be soon saying goodbye to the pressures of work and welcome to the life of leisure with the guarantee of financial stability. Financial stability was won by the union, which have advocated and fought for equity and fair pay for all its members to ensure financial security in retirement. Unions have negotiated pension plans into contracts to ensure that our members can support themselves in retirement. And if you've taken the pleasure to read our contract, which I know is a very long, you would see that Article 27 talks about retirement and Article 26 talks about welfare benefits. And the PSC has fought for, maintained, and pushed for improvements to all our benefits as actives and as retirees when you decide to retire. So I'm going to give an overview of the agenda for today. First on our agenda will be Sandra Zaccanetti, who will talk about, sorry, my screen just disappeared, who will talk about thinking about retirement. We have Talin Spangen, who's going to be speaking about retiring from CUNY, the nuts and bolts. She's from the CUNY Employee Benefits Office. We have Michael Foley from the PSC Welfare Fund to talk about retiree welfare fund benefits. Coming up, we're going to have Debbie Bell, former PSC Executive Director, who will talk about why PSC opposes Medicare Advantage and weakening retiree healthcare. Following that, we have the PSC Retiree Chapter Chair Ann Friedman, who's going to talk to you about our Active Retirees Chapter and how you can join. And finally, I'll be back to close out the session. I have a few housekeeping to talk to you about. Now, if you have any questions during the session, at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you should see a choice for Q&A. You can type your questions there, which will be answered after the segment is finished. And remember that your questions can be seen by all participants. Welcome, and I hope you enjoy the pre-retirement webinar. It has a lot of wealth of knowledge, leading you to be prepared for your retirement. Also, just to mention that even though that's retirement, please be prepared for unexpected issues, which may be financial. We have to always think of inflation. It doesn't go away when you retire. Health issues or family issues, and always have a plan A, B, C, or D. We want to live well in retirement, and we want to enjoy life, I would say life 2.0. If you decide to become a world traveler, an active volunteer, or you decide to take up your passion and open a small business of your hobbies. Again, welcome and enjoy.
Good morning. Good morning. This is Sandra Zaccanetta. I am the Retirement Benefits Counselor at the PSC CUNY Welfare Fund. I will be talking to you about planning for retirement, how you began to take those steps and what those steps involved are regarding making this big decision to leave employment or continue working maybe part-time and retire from your employer. One of the first things that you should consider when planning to retire is looking at what income you're going to get from Social Security and when you're going to start Social Security. So as you start thinking about retirement, you need to begin to do your homework. And your homework involves looking at your sources of income. Are they going to be Social Security, your pension, your savings and investments, or other income supplemented while you work still in retirement? Social Security is crucial to look at. A lot of people have not created a login at ssa.gov to start looking, one, at your history to make sure that your salary information is accurately reflected at Social Security, that there's no missing information there from wherever you have worked throughout your working history, and also to start looking at what you're going to get. So if you look at Social Security, retiring early, what the full retirement age will be based on your date of birth or your year of birth, and what is the highest or the last point at which you can get the highest income from Social Security. All those things are important. So as you start doing your research and your homework, as I call it, the whole process from beginning stages to ending stages is overwhelming. It takes time. It could be confusing since there's a lot of groundwork to cover. It is not a one-stop shop process. You're not going to talk to one person and that's it, you're retired. There are different people with different expertise that you will need to contact on your path to retirement. So if you create access to Social Security with a username, password, you will have to enter your Social Security. And every time you log into Social Security, you're going to have to get a code specifically for that specific login. But it is important to look at what you're going to get from this source, Social Security, because in general, when you're planning for retirement, we want to achieve at least a 70% income replacement from all sources. Usually, Social Security tends to replace 30 to 40% of our income alone. And that depends on your work history. And therefore, it is important that you look at everything in terms of your wages and the whole history to make sure that they're not missing anything. At your full retirement age with Social Security, you may get that income replacement that I mentioned. You have to look at when you were born to see when your full retirement age will be. So if you were born in 1962, you turn 62 next year in 2024. And your full retirement age with Social Security is going to be age 67. You will be 65 in 2024 if you were born in 1959, and your normal Social Security retirement age is 66 and 10 months. The other thing that's important to take into consideration is Medicare. So a lot of questions for a lot of members that are still working and are turning 65 is, when do I apply for Medicare Part A? When do I apply for Medicare Part B? So Medicare Part A, which is free and covers hospital insurance, you should apply for that regardless of employment when you turn 65. However, Medicare Part B, you will only be applying for this at the point that you will retire. So normally it will be applying for Medicare Part B premiums to begin on the first of your official retirement month. The standard Medicare Part B premiums are going up to $174.70 monthly for the year of 2024. You should be signing up for this 3 months, the earliest 3 months prior to your official retirement date. And when you do that, you're signing up when you're on leaves or on Travia leave, and the official retirement date usually is the day after Travia leave ends. If you are under the age of 65 when you retire, you will be applying for Medicare Part B to begin on the first of your 65th birthday month. Now, one of the things that you will see is that the income that you earned, and it's a 2-year look back by the time you retire, impacts how much you pay for Medicare Part B. There is something called income-related monthly adjusted amount. And if you're paying more than the standard when you retire, then that means that your threshold of modified adjusted gross income was above a certain level, and therefore you're paying more. So the good news is that if you retire with benefits from CUNY, those Medicare Part B premiums will be reimbursed to you. And also, if your spouse, partner is a dependent on your benefits, you will get reimbursed for the Medicare Part B premiums for you and your spouse or partner beginning the year after you retire, or beginning the year after you turn 65 if you retired under that age. So this is the $1 million question. And the other component that you should be looking at when you're thinking about retiring. Income replacement or meeting your budget is one. The other is, am I going to have benefits, health, welfare fund benefits, Medicare Part B, premium reimbursements in my retirement? And what you're seeing on the screen is the criteria that needs to be met depending on the retirement system that you have to attain those benefits when you retire from CUNY. So TIM members, the criteria here indicates that you need to be at least 62 or older, have 15 years of full-time continuous employment with CUNY, be in a full-time title when you retire, and you will have to do something, it's called lifetime income annuity with TIAA. You could reach out to me and I will explain to you what that is when you are transitioning into retirement. TRS members and also NYSERS members, you have to be at least age 55 or older, have 10 years of credited service with TRS, be in a full-time PSC title, and you will have to activate your qualified pension plan with TRS or NYSERS. That means you have to start getting that pension. If you retire under age 62 for Tier 4 or age 63 for Tier 6, you will have reductions for life in the pension that you get from TRS or NYSERS if you do not have 30 years credited. So 62 and 63 are the full retirement age depending on the tier you have with these systems. So this is a who to contact, a guide, depending on your retirement system. Once again, what you will be doing as you're taking those first steps to have the discussions about your future retirement. So pre-retirement meetings for TIA members, you will be talking to your counselor at TIA or your advisor. If you have one assigned, you will discuss the financial impact of retirement. Are you on track? Are you able to meet your replacement goals, your budget, all of that? And you will discuss with CUNY Human Resources your eligibility for retiring with health, welfare fund benefits, Medicare Part B reimbursements. TRS members, this also applies to NYSERS members. Look at your TRS annual benefit statements. Since 2018, these statements are online only. You're going to go to statements and documents, and every fall after end of October, you will see your annual benefit statements. You look at this estimate of pension options page, that's where you see what you're potentially going to get in the pension, and it lists different years of retirement. This is important. If you look for estimates of the pension options and you don't find any information, you need to update your service information by contacting your HR office, asking for a copy of the service record that you're asking that they send to TRS. And this is how your service will be updated. This is a manual process for all of CUNY with TRS. And therefore, looking at the ABS, the annual benefit statement, it's an indication that you need to start working on making sure that TRS has your service information for the time you've been at CUNY. I encourage you to attend a retirement class at TRS. You will go into their website and go into contacts and educational information. And that's how you could attend one of the retirement classes based on your tier. You could also do that with NYSERS. And once you are updated in your service, your total service with your TRS retirement system, you're then going to contact me, Sandra Zacaneta. You could go to our website, you go to contacts, we're all listed there. You find my contact information at psccuny.wf.org. The process once you decide to retire involves discussing this with HR to coordinate when you want to officially retire or when you want to start taking your leaves, annual leave, travel leave, depending on what applies to you, and then be able to retire. If you are in a title that has travel leave, you want to obtain the form from HR that will be signed by your chair, and that form has to be returned to HR. There are deadlines. In one of the handouts that you received today, in the folder of links, you will see a specific travel leave document that talks about the deadlines. The semester before you go on leaves, have a meeting with HR to obtain your retiree benefit paperwork. You want to discuss those forms, and your HR contact will be receiving all the paperwork back. They are the point person, and they process the forms with the different entities. As we talked at the beginning, you go to Social Security office, and you're going to go at least 3 months before the official retirement date to apply for Medicare Part B to begin, if that applies to you. TIM members, have your meetings with your advisor, your consultant at TIAA, and you will be completing paperwork closer to retirement to fulfill the lifetime income annuity. TRS members, you're going to contact me, Sandra Zacaneta, at the Welfare Fund 3 months before the official retirement date. I am the person that you will be talking to discuss the pension options, what you're going to select, obtain the TRS retirement paperwork, and I guide you on the whole process of activating your pension with TRS. NYSERS members, you will be doing this directly with NYSERS. Make sure that you understand the reimbursement process. Again, you could reach out to me and I will provide further information on how to set yourself up for the standard and IRMA reimbursements if that applies to you. The resources, these are the documents that you received based on your age and your retirement system when you registered for this conference. You have specific guides that I created based on your retirement system. And if you're under the age of 65 or over the 65 age, these guides are very helpful. It's a general guide as to how to navigate retirement, checklist of the documents that you should be receiving from HR to complete and return. And also you have different useful websites. Do not forget that we have a page at the PSC CUNY WF.org website. That's where I work. If you go to actives, thinking about retirement, ? And then look for your retirement system, you will have loads of information there as well. I'm stopping my sharing, and now Talene Spengen is going to talk about the nuts and bolts of retiring from CUNY. You're going to have a lot of information coming your way from Talene, so take good notes, and we'll be handling the questions and answers after she speaks.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the PSC Pre Retirement Seminar. My name is Talene Spengen, and I am the Director of Benefits at the University Benefits Office. And before I begin, I'm going to begin to share my screen and go through does that look good? Okay.
No, you have to go click on the top.
Oh, sorry. I have to click on the top.
Yep, that's the one.
Display settings. Swap.
Yep.
That's it? Is that good?
I don't think you clicked it.
No?
Are you sure you clicked it? That was the button that we were using earlier.
Yes, swap
working.
presenter view and slideshow.
Yep.
That's what I have.
Okay. Well,
Is that okay?
yeah, that's fine. We can see it.
Okay. All right. As I said, my name is Talene Spengen. I'm the Director of Benefits. This is my email address. Feel free to jot that down and get in touch with me for assistance regarding any of the topics that I'm going to discuss today. These are the things I'm going to go over: eligibility for retiree health benefits, retiree timeline, and so on and so forth. Before I begin, I just want to say that if you have questions about your specific circumstances and they aren't general in nature, you can, I would ask that you hold off and contact me offline so that I can assist you, because this presentation is intended to be a general overview. And while I am happy to answer questions, I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of specific employee circumstances that take up everyone else's time unnecessarily. So, but please do contact me directly and I'll assist you any way that I can. So one of the main aspects of your retiree benefits is the retiree health benefits. This is probably one of the most valuable part of your retirement package. This language is taken directly from your contract, so I don't need to go over it. It dictates the years of service and the age that you need for retiree health. This is additional language from the contract, but I suspect that most of you on this call were appointed on or after September 1. So for you, you need to be separated at age, retire at age 62, at least age 62 with 15 years of pensionable continuous full-time service. There's also a contingent if you if you have completed the 15 years of service, but you're not yet age 62, you can leave CUNY and then come back when you reach age 62 and claim your retiree benefits. But there's a provision in which you can be disqualified from receiving your retiree health benefits if you, in the intervening years, you work for another college or university fulfilling duties similar to that of your CUNY duties. For TRS, NICERS, and Board of Ed retirees, you must have 10 years of credited service if you were employed before 12/27/01. You would only need 5 years of service, and you were working 20 or more hours a week, and you would be eligible for city health benefits if you receive a pension check from TRS, NICERS, or Board of Ed. This is a retiree timeline. These dates are just recommendations, but highly recommended. Verification of service is something that you should do for 4 years prior to retirement if you are planning to do phased retirement, or 6 to 12 months prior to retirement. Phased retirement, as I said, should be done 4 years prior because it's a possible, it's 3 years of phasing, but you would have to apply a year before beginning. So that's how we get to the 4 years. For Travia, we ask that you request Travia leave 4 months prior to the start date of Travia. 5 months prior to retirement, you should contact your pension system and get information from them. Consult with them about what your options are. And applying for Medicare Part A is something that you should do right before you turn 65. There's no cost to Part A, and there's no penalty for enrolling in Part A. Part B, we ask that you hold off, and I'll get into that in more detail. Part D is a drug coverage that's provided by the welfare fund, so you should not enroll in Part D. And then 2 months prior to retirement, you should meet with the Human Resources Office at your campus, expressing your intent to retire. They will give you all the documents that you need to fill out. They will give you a lot of guidance. And then also, if you participate in a NICET program, you should contact NICET to understand what your options are about maintaining those plans into retirement when they are no longer deducted from your paycheck. So verification of service is important because sometimes your understanding, verification of your service date, your original hire date with CUNY is what drives many of your benefits and determines what you're eligible for. Sometimes employees come to CUNY in an adjunct capacity, and so their understanding of their eligibility date or their years of service is different from what the campus understands it to be, because your retirement is based on your 15 years or 10 years of continued full-time pensionable service. So adjunct service is not considered part of that. So verification of service is something that you should clear up with the HR office to make sure that everybody's on the same page and your understanding of your years of service are consistent. If you've worked at more than one campus, then there needs to be a little more coordination so that all of your years of service is combined. This is also a good time to look at your Social Security history, as Sandra already went over, to make sure that all of your work history is accounted for, and so that you can optimize your Social Security when you actually do begin to receive it. So one of the benefits that you're eligible for tenured faculty, librarians, and counselors and lecturers is what we call phase retirement. And what that is, it gives you an opportunity to phase into retirement so you don't go from working full-time to not working at all. Phase retirement allows you to work a reduced workload, and then your pay also is reduced proportionally. This is for employees of the optional retirement program who are in TIAA. This is not a benefit that's available to TRS or NYSERS participants. This is just for TIAA participants. You have to have 15 years of service. You have to have reached the age of 65. And what phasing means is that your workload is reduced to 50%. Your salary is also reduced to 50%. You can phase for 1 year, 2 year, or 3 years. The beginning of phasing has to be on the first day of the fall semester. So that's the only time that you can begin phasing. And then you can also coordinate your phasing period with Travia so that Travia becomes the final semester of phasing. But then, of course, during Travia leave, which I'm going to get into, for the first period of phasing, your salary and workload is at 50%. And then when you go into Travia, your salary reverts back to 100%. The combination of phasing and Travia cannot exceed 3 years. Phase retirement is an irrevocable commitment to retirement. So once all the documents are signed and you begin phasing, you cannot change your mind to come back to work. This supersedes any right to return to work that Travia leave allows. So if Travia is part of your phasing, then it's irrevocable and you cannot return to work. You have to retire once you are in phase retirement. And applications have to be received almost a year prior to the semester that you want to begin phasing. So for those of you who want to be in phase retirement starting next fall in 2024, your application should already have been submitted on November 15. So in addition to faculty, HEO, those of you who are in a HEO title, you're also eligible for phase retirement, but the workload is structured a little differently. The eligibility rules are the same. You have to be age 65 and have completed 15 years of continuous full-time service. But for HEOs, the workload is reduced to 80%. The salary is reduced to 80%. You can phase for either 6 months or 1 year. And there's a little more flexibility about when that phasing can begin because your appointments are not the same as faculty who are appointed consistent with the academic year. There's a little more flexibility with phasing. I mean, with HEOs. You can also elect to take Travia in the final semester of your phasing period. And so your 80% phasing, the 80% workload and salary during the phasing period will go back up to 100 if you're going to be on Travia leave in your final semester of the final period of phasing. So we talked about Travia leave. So what is Travia? Travia is an opportunity for you to be paid out half of your unused sick leave. So if you have a maximum of 160 days of sick leave, then Travia leave is the equivalent of 5 months for HEOs or a full semester for faculty. If you begin Travia, if you want to take Travia in the fall, then you should request Travia in the spring prior to that semester. And again, if you're going to take Travia in the spring, you should apply for it in the fall. Just know that, keep in mind that if you are participating in the catastrophic sick leave bank, or if you are donating donating sick leave through the dedicated sick leave program, that could cause you to fall short of the 160 days of the sick leave that you need to be paid out for a full 5 months or a full semester. So if you have anything less than 160 days, the maximum, so let's say you have 100 days of sick leave, unused sick leave, then you would get paid out for 50 days, so half of your sick leave. The only exception to this is if you have the maximum of 160 days, it's rolled up to complete a full 5 months or a full semester, even though it's actually more than half of your 160 days if you actually did the math and counted out the days. But that's the only exception, is if you have the maximum 160. So faculty who take Travia leave in the spring will be paid out their unused annual leave during the summer, and then their retirement date will be the last day before the fall semester. But faculty who take Travia in the fall, and this is not very common, but it does happen. If you take Travia leave in a fall semester, then your retirement date will be the last day right before the spring semester begins, and then you will not be paid out annual leave in the subsequent July and August. So your retirement date is the last day before the spring semester starts. And HEOs who take Travia leave will have their unused annual leave paid out at the end of Travia leave. This says prior to commencement of Travia. It could be paid out before, but it's usually paid out after Travia leave ends. Your annual leave will be paid out in a lump sum. There's an annual leave cap for those of you who get your annual leave paid out in a lump sum. For ECPs, it's 50 days. For HEOs, it's 45 days. If you're on a fellowship leave, you have to return for 1 full year of service before you can go out on Travia or phased retirement. So a lot of the most complicated aspect of retirement is how to coordinate your health insurance with Medicare, and if you're under 65, if you're over 65, what about your spouse who's either under or over 65? There's a lot of moving parts when it comes to figuring out what you do and when you do it. And so we created this chart to help guide you, to be used as a reference. Instead of going through all the different scenarios, what I'm going to do is explain how to read this chart. And once you understand how the information's organized, it'll be easier for you to go back and refer to it based on the circumstances and whether you're active, whether you're still working or you're retiring, or if your spouse is over 65, under 65. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can switch to this other document. And then I'll go over some of the different scenarios. Okay. Is that easy to see? Can everyone see that? I guess that means yes.
No, that's pretty small. You're going to have to go down to
It's
the bottom
small?
right. Go down to the bottom right and drag that much bigger. Yeah, that would be good.
Is that okay? All right,
That's
good.
great. Thanks.
Okay, so this is the way to read this chart. The first column refers to the person that we're asking the question about. So are we interested in what an active employee would do, what a spouse of an active employee who's under age 65 would do, the spouse or domestic partner of an employee who's over age 65. So that's what the first column refers to, is who are we asking the question about? The second column refers to the age of the CUNY employee. So if the CUNY employee that is under age 65, we will look at the second column for our answers. And if the CUNY employee is over age 65, we would look to the third column for the answer to our questions. So I'm going to do a couple of exercises and go through some of these. But I'll start with the easiest one. So if the first row is regarding an active employee. So if a CUNY employee is actively working and they are under 65, we would go to the second column, and it says that their primary coverage is a New York City health plan, which is the plan that they're on as an active employee, and Medicare is not applicable because the employee is under age 65. So if we're asking the question about an active employee who's over age 65, we would go to the third column. And the third column tells us that the primary coverage is a New York City health plan. That is because the employee, even though they're 65, they're still working. So they're still covered under an active health plan. They should enroll in Part B, in Medicare Part A. There's no consequence, no penalty, no cost. But Part B is not necessary because they're still covered under an active employer plan. And Part D is not applicable because they are still covered under the PSC drug plan. So let's go down a couple of rows to one that looks a little complicated. So let's ask the question, what does the spouse or domestic partner of an active employee do if that spouse is over age 65? So if the CUNY employee is under age 65, even though the spouse, we would look at the second column. So even though the spouse is over age 65, they're married to a CUNY employee who is under age 65, both of them would still be covered under New York City Health Plan. The spouse may enroll in Part A, and it is recommended that they do. They do not have to enroll in Part B or D because they're still covered under the CUNY active employee who is under age 65. So the one caveat to this is if the spouse or the partner of the CUNY employee is a domestic partner. So because the federal government doesn't recognize domestic partnerships, if a domestic partner of a CUNY employee is over age 65, they must enroll in A and B. They must. If they do not, they will incur a penalty, and that penalty remains in place for life. So if you're a domestic partner of an active CUNY employee who's still working, as long as the domestic partner turns 65, they must enroll in Part A and B. But they do not have to enroll in Part D because they're still covered under the welfare fund. So so now let's go to the next column. So if the spouse or domestic partner is over age 65 and the CUNY employee is also over age 65, not a lot changes because the CUNY employee is still active. So even though they're both over age 65, the CUNY employee is still active, so they're both still covered under New York City Health Plan. The spouse should apply for Part A. They do not have to apply for Part B and D, but if there is a domestic partner involved, the domestic partner who's age 65 must enroll in A and B, but not D. So maybe I'll do one more that's really complicated, just so we understand and can cover an additional scenario, a few additional scenarios. So let's say that the spouse is age 65 and the CUNY employee is now a retiree, but the CUNY employee is under age 65. What happens? The primary coverage for the spouse, it becomes Medicare because the CUNY employee is retired. Even though the CUNY employee is under age 65, as long as they're retired, now the spouse who's 65 enrolls in Medicare Part A, Part B. Medicare is their primary, and the New York City Health Plan is their secondary coverage. The spouse or domestic partner will be enrolled in a senior care plan, even though the CUNY retiree who's under 65 is still in an active health plan. So the spouse and domestic partner must enroll in Part A, must enroll in Part B, and but not Part D because they're still under the welfare fund. And at this time, the spouse who's over age 65 can apply for Medicare reimbursement for either for basic and IRMA if it's applicable. So one more scenario. So the spouse or domestic partner is 65, and the retiree is also 65. So now we look into in the third column. So both of them should be enrolled in Medicare, Part A and Part B. Medicare is primary. The New York City Health Plan is secondary. They will both be in the senior care plan at this time. And they will both be in the welfare fund drug plan, so they do not enroll in Part D, and they should both apply for Medicare reimbursement, basic and IRMA. So I'm going to stop sharing now and go back to my previous Is that clear? Is the setting right?
The setting's not right, but we can still read it.
Setting is not right. How's that?
For whatever reason, it's not changing.
It's not changing. I don't know why. Now? No?
It's fine. We could see it, Taline, and also every participant received your PowerPoint in the folder.
Okay, good.
So that's fine.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, good. So as I said before, Medicare Part D, you should not apply because your drug plan is administered by the PSC CUNY Welfare Fund, which Michael is going to get into a little bit later. And then when you enroll in a plan as a retiree, one of the city health plans, most people are in the GHI senior care plan, but it's not the only plan that you can choose. You do have a transfer period. If you find that the plan is not working for you, during the transfer period, you can change plans once a year. I just want to say a couple more things about the senior care plan and bring up the Medicare Advantage plan. As you all know, the court has halted the implementation of the Medicare Advantage plan. But the way that, and so most people are going to be in the GHI senior care plan. The senior care plan has a unique coordination with Medicare. So when you and your spouse both turn 65 and you enroll in you're retired and you enroll in Medicare, Medicare becomes your primary, and Medicare will pay for 80% of your claims. The senior care plan has a unique coordination with Medicare in that it will pay the balance of the 20% of your claim. So even if, regardless of where in the country you live, GHI senior care will pay the 20% of your claim. You are not limited to only physicians who are in the GHI network. So the GHI senior care plan is the only one that works that way. So you can live anywhere in the country, go to a Medicare doctor, Medicare will pay for 80% of your claim, and the GHI senior care plan will pay the other 20%. Now, what happens to this coordination in the future if a different retiree plan is implemented? We have no idea. We can't predict the future. I have no insight as to what direction OLR is going in this regard. But as it stands today, the senior care plan coordinates with Medicare very nicely and is accessible regardless of where in the country you live. Another one of your retiree benefits is that you get your Medicare Part B reimbursed to you. So this is a very valuable benefit. Once you enroll in Medicare, when you meet with your HR staff to consult about your retirement, they'll give you a Medicare Part B reimbursement form. You'll fill that out. You'll provide your spouse's information. You'll provide a copy of your Medicare card, and then send that in to us. You will, if you are in a TIAA plan, the form will come to my office. We have a staff member, Delfino Rojas, who is in charge of this program. If you are a TIAA, I mean a TRS or NICERS, then the form will go to OLR. But the campuses are really good about giving you a package of forms, retrieving them back from you, and distributing them to whoever needs to get them. So you don't really have to worry about that. They do it for you. And then when you are ready to enroll in Part B up to 3 months before your retirement, your office can give you a form, the HR office can give you a letter or a form showing that you were in an employer health plan prior to enrolling in Medicare, so that you will not be subject to any kind of penalties. This is where the Medicare Part B reimbursement enrollment forms go. As I said, the NICERS and TRS participants will send it to OLR directly. The TIA participants send it to our office. And I'm just going to talk briefly about the IRMA. So everyone pays the basic premium for Medicare Part B, but based on your income, you may be subject to additional premiums called IRMA, which is an income-related premium. That is also reimbursable to you as a retiree benefit, but because it's related to your income, it's something that you have to apply for annually, and you have to provide supporting documentation in order to receive it. So once you submit the reimbursement form for the basic premium, that'll be sent to you automatically. If you're in TIAA, it is a check in the mail. If you're in TRS or NICERS, it'll be directly deposited into the same account that your pension check goes into. But the IRMA, you have to apply annually because your income can fluctuate from one year to the next. And because it's income related, there may be years that you're subject to IRMA, but there may be years that you're not subject to IRMA. So that is something that has to be managed annually on your part. I'm just going to look at okay, I'll get to the questions at the end. So the transit benefit is something that many of us participate in, but it is very often employees don't know how this program works, and they end up over contributing to it. And what happens is, upon retirement, you only have 90 days to spend down whatever excess funds are in that account. So if you've over contributed to this account, you really, and you're planning on retiring anytime soon, you really need to work with your HR, figure out how to spend down those monies. And that could mean that you would reduce your contribution down to $1, just so you continue to participate in the program, but you don't continue to contribute so much that you end up with funds that you are not able to spend in the 90 days that you need to upon retirement. So what the 90-day clock starts when you actually retire. So it doesn't start when you're on Travia or phased retirement, or you're on annual leave in the summer. It begins at your actual retirement date. So if your retirement date is August 25th, that's when that 90-day clock starts. So if you don't use up those funds in your transit account within 90 days of your retirement date, that money will be forfeited and lost. So this is something that you should look into now. log into your Edenred. If you haven't already done that, create an Edenred access account, log in, look at the funds that are there, and come up with a strategy to spend down those funds so that you don't forfeit them at the end of 90 days post-retirement. The healthcare flex spending account, the FSA, works in the same way. It's because it's pre-tax funds. You only have a limited amount of time from retirement to spend down those funds. So you should either and once you set up a payroll deduction, you can't change it. The transit is a little different in that it's more flexible. You can change the amount, but with the FSA, once you lock into a payroll deduction, you can't change it. So if you're planning on retiring, look at your balance, make sure that you spend down those funds before your retirement date. There are a few options about how to remain in the plan through the end of the calendar year in which you retire in order to give you the opportunity to spend down those funds. But this is something that you should look into now. And if you need to stay in the plan, then you should talk to your benefits officer about what your options are. Because any funds that you don't use after retirement will be lost. And because it's an IRS, because it's pre-tax, it's governed by the IRS, and so refunds are not possible. We are not allowed to refund you these monies. Once they are taken out of your payroll, the only way to use them is to spend them in the way in which they were intended. So the New York State Deferred Compensation Plan is an alternative investment opportunity for you to invest pre-tax earnings. Even if you're a year or two away from retirement, the New York State Deferred Compensation Plan is a good way to sock away a little more money into retirement on a pre-tax basis. And the good thing about this plan is that it's not coordinated with your TDA. So if you are in a tax-deferred annuity, whether with TRS or with TIAA, and you are maxing out, for example, this plan you can also max out on, and in effect, double what you're contributing on a pre-tax basis. If it was just TDA plans are coordinated, so you can't have a TRS TDA and a TIAA TDA. But if you have either one of those, you can have this plan in addition to that. So you should look on our website, look for the information. When I do my pre-retirement seminars in the spring, I always have someone from this plan, a representative from this plan, to talk about this investment opportunity. So it is something that you could benefit from in a big way to sock away more money in the last year or two of your working time before retirement, and defer more pre-tax funds into an investment vehicle. The withdrawal rules are different for these plans, so you should know what those are before you commit to it, but this is an additional investment opportunity for you. Retirement counseling, Sandra Zaccanetta is a great retirement counselor. You should take advantage of whatever retirement counseling is offered by your pension system, and so that you can go in with your eyes wide open and know exactly what you're getting into and get as much information as possible regarding retirement. And that includes contacting me. I'm always happy to answer your questions. Working after retirement is something that CUNY employees seem to do a lot. Even though they retire, people still want to teach because it's their calling. They want to teach as an adjunct, or they want to teach in a different, or they want to work in a different capacity, continuing to work, maybe at CUNY, maybe another agency. But there are limitations, and the limitations are as follows. So if you retire under age 65 and you want to go work at another New York City or New York State agency, you can only earn up to $35,000, because if you exceed that, your pension system will stop issuing your pension check. So that is the limitation, $35,000 if you are under age 65 and you go to work for another New York City or New York State agency. Now, if you are over age 65 and retire, this limit doesn't apply to you. If you are under age 65 and you go and work in the private sector, this does not apply to you. Even if you work in a government agency in another state outside of New York, this limitation does not apply to you. So it is only if you are under age 65 and you work for a New York City or New York State agency after retirement, this limit applies to you. It is important to keep all these different entities that you interact with up to date on your, change of an email address, change of beneficiaries, change of address, banking information. All of these different entities and agencies don't really share information with each other. So it's kind of on you to make sure that everybody is aware that your address changed or your banking account information changed, or your dependents or your beneficiaries have changed. So make sure that we are able to get in touch with you if we need to, because that happens very often. And again, this is just a final reminder of keeping everyone notified of address changes, banking changes, beneficiary changes, and so forth. And these are just some links for you for your information. And now I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to look at some of the questions.
I'm going to ask you the questions, Celine. This is Sandra.
You're going to ask me? Okay, great.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So the first question is, does a fellowship leave include a sabbatical?
Yeah, fellowship is just another word for sabbatical.
Okay. If I have been waiving New York City health plan coverage, should I enroll for the year before I enter phased retirement, or does it matter? I'm entitled to coverage, but I have been choosing to decline it and being covered by my spouse's insurance.
The Office of Labor Relations considers retirement a qualifying event. So even if you are not in a plan as you're working, upon retirement, you are eligible as a qualifying event to enroll in a city health plan.
Along with that question, somebody asked, HR told me that if I want GHI senior care plan, I should transfer to GHI before I retire. Is that true?
It's not necessary, no. I know that OLR considers retirement a qualifying event.
Okay. Regarding CUNY employee is over 65, retires, and then later on marries, can this new spouse get this coverage?
Yes. And it's a qualifying event again. So as long as you have a marriage certificate, they can enroll effective the day of the certificate, the day on the certificate, marriage certificate.
Okay. Travia for a HEO, the slide stated annual paid out. Is that paid out in days and regular paychecks or in a lump sum?
Annual leave for a HEO after Travia is in a lump sum.
Regarding Travia leave, how long does it take to earn 160 days of sick days?
Well, as I think that we earn 20 sick days a year. So if you don't use any, that's I don't know, 6 years of 20 is 100. Oh, I mean, not 8 years. 8 years of 20 days a year is 160 days. So, if you don't use your sick leave at all, you'll have that in 8 years. But if you're retiring, you need 10 or 15 anyway. So people are generally here long enough to accumulate 160 days, especially when you come here at a young age. And, young people tend to not take as many sick days as us older people.
What if I plan to live outside the US in retirement? Does this affect how the health coverage GHI senior care works?
It does, because it's not Medicare and the senior care plan is not going to work out of the country. And also, if you live outside of the country, you will not be eligible for your Medicare Part B reimbursement.
Do
So
we have to notify every agency we receive a retirement benefit from every year of life to prove life?
no, I don't
Okay.
think so.
Well, I will just add this regarding that question. If you are a TRS retiree, and I would say 99% of the individuals that retire have automatic deposits of their pension checks. TRS or NICERS pension systems, they do the checks of proof of life throughout your retirement. So they will, let's say 10 years in, they will stop the automatic, one automatic deposit of the pension. They will send you a physical check, and they will require that you go and have this document notarized, along with depositing that check. Once they verify that you are alive and well, they will resume with the electronic funds transfers or deposits of the paychecks of the
I want to
pension.
chime in real quickly. This is Jenna. Hi, everyone. Regarding that question, because I've had it happen to actually in a retiree's husband, they were over 90 years of age, and they were told that they were no longer alive, unfortunately, because they had not answered any of the actual letters that were mailed to them. So they mailed one letter and they didn't get a response. Then they mailed a second letter. And then on the third letter, they said that they were going to stop the coverage, stop the pension check. And that's what dictates your health insurance. Without the pension check, you will not get health insurance. And that's how they originally found out that their coverage had been terminated, because the person had just had open heart surgery and they had like a bunch of follow-up appointments that were canceled on them. So back
Oh my
to
goodness.
said, please make sure that you no matter where you move, how if you go out of the country, another state, always update all of your information as far as your phone number, your address, your email address, because these letters were being mailed hard copy to their actual home in Florida, but they weren't thinking it was of important mail. You know what I mean? Like and again, they are over 90 years old. They were still functioning, but unfortunately, they didn't answer any of those letters until they realized that it was too late. So please, please, please be mindful of changing your address. So yes, you will have to check in ever so often. As soon as you see that letter, just respond, because then you'll
Jenna.
have bigger issues. You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, there are two questions. This question from Sally Begley, I will tell Talene to answer part of it. The rest of your questions should be for me, and you could email me, because I need you to provide more questions about what the question is about TRS. But Travia leave, can you rescind retirement date after taking Travia leave?
So Travia leave, the last day of Travia leave, you could say that you change your mind and you want to come back to work. It's not intended to be used in that way. And I know a lot of people treat it like a semester off, but it's intended for those who express a bona fide intent to retire. But it is not irrevocable, and you can, at the end of Travia, change your mind and decide to come back. I did want to, yeah, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, and can you add when they could retire after they come back from Travia? They have no more Travia.
Well, they kind of do, because Travia is only paying out half of their sick leave. So technically, when they come back, they're coming back. I mean, you can never take Travia again. You can only do it once. But you come back and technically you have your sick leave restored. It's still like half of it is still there, because you've only been paid out for half of it. I wanted to also go back to a question that someone asked Sandra when you were speaking about annuitization for TIAA participants. I just wanted to go into that a little bit, because TIAA participants are required to annuitize a minimum of $10,000 in order to secure funds to pay for your health insurance premium. So even though the senior care plan, for example, if you have the enhanced rider, it's only a few dollars a month, maybe $7, $8 for a husband and wife. But we require that you annuitize. And the reason for that is so that so when you set up an annuity with a lifetime annuity with TIAA for $10,000, you get a check every month from TIAA or a direct deposit. And then if there's a health insurance premium that you owe, that'll be deducted from your annuity check. And this is to guarantee that for the rest of your life, you will never have to worry about whether or not you're able to pay for your health insurance. It'll automatically come out of a lifetime annuity that's guaranteed for life. And so you will never risk having a lapse or disruption in your coverage. But because we don't know what premiums are going to be 10 years from now, 15 years from now, we also require that you freeze $50,000 in your TIAA account. So that money is frozen. You're not allowed to withdraw it. You can annuitize all 50,000 if you want, or you can annuitize a minimum of 10,000. And that'll help pay for your health insurance premiums so that you never have to worry about it. And that's how your premiums are paid. If you are in a plan that is a lot more expensive than $7, $8 a month, it could be $200 a month. Some of the plans are more expensive. Some of the the ones with Cigna or Aetna, those are more expensive. So you'll have to annuitize additional funds. So when you go to TIAA and say, I need to annuitize money to pay for my retiree health insurance, they're going to ask you, what plan are you on and what's the premium for that? And then they'll tell you how much of your balance you have to annuitize in order to cover the health insurance premium.
If you have a legitimate physical medical issue and you are of retirement age, can you get all of your sick time paid before starting your pension?
If you have a legitimate illness, I mean, legitimate illness, if you can support with medical documentation that you're legitimately sick and you can use up your sick leave, I mean, you technically, yes.
Okay.
But then if you're also, I mean, that's kind of a complicated question, but
Okay.
technically, yeah.
Okay. Explain Travia for our CLTs.
For CLTs, were they, let me
Chief
look
lab
at,
technicians.
I think they were,
Or maybe they could email you.
yeah, for CLTs, I don't know off the top of my head what their the hours that they are required to work, because I know their hours differ a little bit. So contact me offline.
Okay. And I think this is the last one. If you take Travia leave, then come back and teach one more semester. I retire at the end of this fall semester. When you retire, are there remaining Travia monies that are disbursed to you upon retirement?
No, you can only get Travia leave once. So if you come back and you work again, even though you have an accumulation of sick leave still, you cannot take Travia again.
What does it mean to annuitize TIAA money?
So so annuitizing is this, when it's kind of like striking a deal with TIAA in which you say, I'll give you $10,000 from my account. And in return, based on my life expectancy and the age that I'm retiring, TIAA promises to send me a check every month for life based on that $10,000. So they take the 10,000 out, and in return, they send you a check every month for life. So a very rough, very general estimate is if you annuitize $10,000 and you're 65 or 70 years old when you begin to receive that annuity, it's somewhere around $45, between $40 and $50 a month. So that's what you're getting in return for giving up $10,000 out of your account balance. So for most people on the senior care plan, the $50 check is more than enough to cover the health insurance premium, for a senior care plan. And then after that $7 or $8 is deducted, the balance of it is sent to you. So that's what an annuity is. It's a lifetime. It kind of replicates a pension. So it's a guaranteed income for life.
Do I have to annuitize TIA? I don't want the lifetime income, just the 10 years. You don't have to, yeah. You just have to do
If
the
you're
10,000.
if you're going to be in a city health plan and you're in TIAA and you want a Medicare Part B reimbursement, you have to annuitize a minimum of $10,000. There is no way around it. And in fact, OLR has been a little more militant of late enforcing this. Recently, they actually terminated somebody's health insurance retroactively because they never set up an annuity. So this is serious business. You do not want to compromise your retiree health plan just to avoid annuitizing $10,000. It's not worth it.
Okay. When you are on phased retirement, are you still considered to be in a full-time position even though you are now working part-time? I am asking this because of the health premium reimbursement issue.
Right. So when you're on phased retirement, you're still considered active. You're obviously at a lower percentage. But you still continue to receive health insurance throughout phased retirement. You don't lose that.
Okay. Who do I contact to start my pre-retirement planning? So this
Everybody.
This is what I discussed at the beginning. Depending on your retirement system, if you have TIAA, you are talking to your TIA counselor or assigned advisor. If you have NICERS, you'll be talking to NICERS directly. If you have TRS, you will be contacting me, Sandra Zacaneta. Please make sure your service is updated with TRS before you schedule an appointment with me. Okay.
And your benefits officer.
Right.
They're your best friend.
For the benefits portion is always HR. So
yeah. And that should always be, within CUNY, that should always be your first point of contact. People call me all the time, and it seems that they haven't gone to their benefits staff yet. You should always go to your campus benefits staff first. And if anything is excessively complicated, they'll reach out to me, or you can reach out to me, but they should be your first point of contact.
Right. I do not have an annuity. How can I enroll? TIAA, you are only starting an annuity if you are retiring. Your official retirement month, that's when that begins. There are two reasons to have the annuity. One, if you're meeting the criteria needed to retire with health. So you have to convert the annuity, as Talene mentioned before, for that component. And then for your own income needs in retirement. And that's why discussions with your TIA counselor or advisor are crucial, because that's the financial aspect of retirement. So you want to make sure that you can retire financially. Is this attainable, doable? And what are the income choices with TIAA when I retire? Because they have various, including lifetime income annuity.
So I'm wondering if she means a tax deferred annuity.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know.
So maybe they could, if you are, as Talene mentioned before, if you are, looking to save additionally for the last couple of years before you retire, you realize that you're looking at your pension or what TIA is telling you, and it's not going to be enough to meet your budget needs when you retire or income replacement when you retire. You definitely could come in and, start saving in a tax deferred annuity. You could do that with TIAA if you have TIAA, TRS, NICERS. And as Talene mentioned before, you could put as much money as affordable or as you can in there, and also look into that deferred compensation plan to just come in and save as much as you can for the last couple of years. So we don't know if that's what you were saying, the question. Okay, I think that's it. I'm answering some of the questions on the Q&A.
There's a question, is there a problem applying for B,
Yeah, I
even
was just
though you
reading.
haven't retired and are intending to do so in order to avoid a lapse? You should enroll in Part B on the first day of the month in which you retire, so you won't have a lapse. If you enroll in Part B before you retire, a year or months or whatever it is, it'll be an out-of-pocket expense for you, because until you retire, you won't be eligible for the Medicare Part B reimbursement.
Okay. How do you determine whether you annuitize 10,000 or 50,000?
When you go to TIAA to set up an annuity, they're going to ask you, and when you meet with the benefits person at your campus for retirement, they're going to give you a retiree rate sheet. So when you go to TIAA and tell them you're retiring, you want to set up a lifetime annuity to pay for your retiree health insurance, they'll ask you, what plan are you going to be on? How much is it a month? And based on that premium, they will tell you how much you need to annuitize to ensure that your annuity check is enough to cover the premium of the health insurance plan that you're choosing.
Okay. I think someone is clarifying what CLT means. And you
I know
what that means.
It's a college laptop. I know what it stands for. I don't know if there are different hours. I just don't want to give them information that I'm not certain about.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's it. We made it to almost 11:30, so I think now Mike will begin, right?
Hi, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Talene.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Foley. I'm the Communications Director for the PSC CUNY Welfare Fund. Thank you to Talene and thank you to Sandra. This is great information for all of you to hear. And on behalf of everyone at the PSC CUNY Welfare Fund, congratulations on your pending retirement. You've worked hard, and I'm sure you're looking forward to many years of great adventures and good health and being and taking on that new chapter in your life. I speak to our retiree members pretty much every day. They are dynamic people. They're fun folks. They live all over the country. They are doing exciting things on a daily basis. Demographically, we have about 8,000 or so retirees are part of the welfare fund. Our oldest retiree is 107. We have about 23 folks that are over age 100. I was just chatting the other day with a woman named Joan Heaton. Joan is a 92-year-old ski instructor at Wyndham in New York, who recently wrote a book. She and I were talking about some benefits, and she said, "Hey, you're from New England. Do you ski?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Well, I'm going to send you my book." And it was a fascinating discussion, and our retirees are just wonderful people. And, those are some of our more veteran ones. Our youngest retiree could very well turn out to be one of you. So again, congratulations. And I hope you're looking forward to it. And we certainly look forward to helping you out on that pathway. The nice thing about the welfare fund is kind of the easy part in a way. Once you've worked out your Social Security issues and your Medicare issues and your pension and your health benefits, and you've met with HR and you've met with Sandra, your welfare fund benefits will feel very kind of familiar and similar because they are. So I'm going to give you a quick rundown. Sharing my screen. Great. Okay. So yes, the welfare fund in retirement provides your supplemental benefits. That means your prescription drug, dental, hearing, and vision, along with some other benefits to all of you. The welfare fund is an independent nonprofit. We enjoy our close affiliations with CUNY and as well as the Professional Staff Congress. But we are a staff of about 12 or so folks, and we support well over 20,000 active and retired members right now. We recently moved back into our office in Lower Manhattan at 25 Broadway. If anyone is in the vicinity, please feel free to stop by and say hello. One of the things that you're going to notice when you, after you've met with HR and you've given them the form for your enrollment as a retiree, and HR has sent us the form, is one of the more involved changes is your prescription drug plan. While you're an active employee, you are in the, and under age 65, you're in the CVS Caremark plan. When you turn 65 or when you retire, you move into basically what's called the SilverScript plan. That's a hybrid Medicare Part D plan along with the welfare fund. In essence, the benefits of the plan stay roughly the same. It's the same drug formulary. You'll most likely be able to continue on the same drugs you have. We have certain, many of the ways to limit things like copays and things like that are basically the same. And you'll find that the process is relatively easy. We have staff ready to assist you with any questions that come up as you make that transition. Many of you might be in the PICA program, and that's for injectable and or chemo cancer drugs. PICA ends when you end your employment, but it continues in retirement as a Medicare program. So you'll still be able to get those injectable and chemo drugs through the SilverScript drug program. Once you enroll in Medicare, diabetic drugs come from SilverScript instead of your GHI plan. One thing you're probably going to hear as you go through the process is you're going to hear about you may get at some point told, oh, you need to sign up for a Part D plan. You do not. A Part D plan is a drug plan. You get your drug coverage through the welfare fund, as previously mentioned, but I just want to emphasize that again. As you cross paths with insurers and health benefits plans, you're going to get sort of offered things like a Part D plan, a dental rider, things like that. You can say no to all of that because the welfare fund provides your drug, dental, hearing, and vision. Like I said, most welfare fund benefits do not change upon retirement. Let's talk about your dental plan. If you're in the Guardian plan, it continues. If you're in the Delta HMO plan, it continues. Davis Vision continues pretty much the same, and your Hear USA plan stays. Your hearing aid plan stays the same. A little bit about dental. Guardian is an HMO. Most of our retirees are in the Guardian plan. Basically, we've incentivized our Guardian dentists to offer an extensive array of procedures at a lower cost. Guardian plans are widely available. So let's say you retire to, I recently spoke with a retiree who was living in the US Virgin Islands. It turned out that Delta the dentist on her island was in the Delta plan, so she stuck with Delta. But you'll find that Guardian is more widely available. Let's say if you retire to Florida or Arizona or someplace warm. But in essence, what I advise everyone to do is take a look at your benefits when you're preparing to retire, and just evaluate what makes sense in your life at this moment. The Delta plan, there's certainly benefits to it. It is an HMO, so there's going to be fewer dentists involved and stuff. But if you've been with a Delta dentist for a long time, stick with it. Davis Vision is a great benefit for eyeglasses, frames and lenses, and contacts. There was a recent change that go over to a calendar year. So in other words, if you were to get a pair of frames right now, you could return on January 1st and get a different pair of frames. I would urge everyone to take advantage of that benefit. Get a pair for the house, get a pair for the car, things like that. Hear USA. Hearing aids have changed a lot in the last several years. You can walk into a Costco, you can walk into a Walmart and get an over-the-counter non-prescription hearing aid. And it appears to be much cheaper than what you would get through some other benefit providers, including the welfare fund. But I just would like to caution everyone around a few rules about Hear USA. Many of those non-prescription over-the-counter hearing aids are essentially amplifiers. Hear USA offers top-of-the-line hearing aids. You are eligible for a $1,500 per ear benefit on your hearing aids. And if you are in that sort of middle ground where you need not the bottom level hearing aid, but sort of that middle level hearing aid, you're going to really pay almost nothing. If you do go out of network for Hear USA, you are eligible for a $200 per ear benefit, but only if it's a prescription hearing aid. So I would just ask everyone to use caution if you do choose to purchase a hearing aid over-the-counter, non-prescription at a place like a Costco or whatnot. Just take a good look at the Hear USA benefit, evaluate it, and I think you'll find that it is a much better benefit in the long term. You also will have free consultations with an audiologist. The Hear USA has offices throughout the 5 boroughs, and I talked to a lot of Hear USA recipients, and they're generally pretty happy with the process, as well as with Davis Vision. Some welfare fund benefits do end at retirement, and that's the basic disability, and that's the $5,000 death benefit for employees survivors, and that's the extended medical option. Extended medical, Medicare sort of picks up that when you retire, so it's not really kind of a loss, it's just sort of a change. Dependent spouse benefits end upon the death of the retiree. But what we do offer spouses of retirees who pass away, they can have the option of purchasing the welfare fund's benefits. Right now, it's slightly over about $2,000 a year to purchase the drug, dental, hearing, and vision. Or you could opt for COBRA. But I think if you compare the two side by side, you'll find that purchasing the welfare fund benefits directly from us will save you some money. Now, so we do administer several insurance-based programs, including a catastrophic major medical plan, a long-term care plan, and with assistance from NYSET, a term life program. Now, for those of you here today that have the catastrophic major medical plan and the long-term care plan, congratulations. Those plans are rare. Enrollment through the welfare fund in those plans have been closed for many years. What has happened over the years is that insurance companies have figured out that it's very difficult to make money writing these plans, so they just don't. So many of you that do have a catastrophic plan or a long-term care plan have probably had it for many years and have been paying the premiums dutifully throughout the years. And I would urge you to stick with those premiums. because God forbid in the future when you need these plans, they are extremely beneficial, and it's really sort of peace of mind to keep in your back pocket until you happen to need them. Some of the most difficult calls I have are with people who are suddenly find themselves in a nursing home or suddenly find themselves in a rehab facility. And thankfully, they have the catastrophic plan or they have the long-term care plan, and they can make those claims. What happens upon retirement, if you have either of these plans, is you've most likely been having the premiums deducted automatically from your paycheck. That transitions to a pension deduction. There's a period of a time of several weeks where you have to make the payments directly, but you do have the option of having those premium payments made directly from your pension. In essence, if you keep up those premiums and you work with us, you'll find that when you do need to realize this benefit from the catastrophic plan or the long-term care plan, you'll be very pleased with it. The term life insurance plan is through NYSET, and these plans are all portable, and they don't go away as long as you keep paying those premiums. Our website, this is actually an old image of our website. Our website has been updated. It's really the best source of information and the best place to get our information, psccunywf.org. You can always reach me, and everything you need here, from contact information to enrollment forms to claims forms, are all here. One thing we're very proud about at the Welfare Fund is that we are available to you. If you call us, if you email us, you will get a response. We will assist you with a variety of things. If we can ever get the city's Office of Labor Relations to pick up the phone, then everything would be perfect, but we'll see. Happy to take questions at this point. Sandra, do you want to read off the questions, or I can?
Yes, I'll read some questions that are in the queue. Does one have to sign up for SilverScript when they are turning 65?
Yes. So SilverScript is a Medicare-based program. So when you, as you previously mentioned, that time frame, that pre-60, 3 months before age 65, when you sign up for Medicare, that's when you make the transition over to SilverScript.
So you, just to add to that, you get the paperwork for SilverScript, health, the welfare fund benefits when you meet with your HR person and when you're going to retire. So the SilverScript form will be completed in the packet of forms given to you. You'll have it from HR. You complete it and return all the documents to HR. They process with the different entities, including the welfare fund. If when you retire, you are under 65, you will be getting the SilverScript form mailed to you from the welfare fund, probably within 6 months of you turning 65. So you have to apply for Medicare Part B, get the card that says A and B, and if your spouse partner is a dependent on your benefits and they've been having coverage when you retire and they're transitioning into Medicare Part B and 65, they will also have to complete the SilverScript form. It will be mailed to them from the welfare fund. You return those forms back to the welfare fund with copies of your Medicare cards. Okay, next question. If I go on my wife's insurance once I retire, who is still working, do I need to choose welfare fund, dental, vision, hearing, drugs, or can I be covered by both her plan and the welfare fund?
Double coverage is problematic, and you it's kind of a good problem to have in a way. If your spouse's benefits include things like a prescription drug, dental, hearing, and vision, and it seems like it's a better deal, then you have a decision to make. But generally having utilizing two benefit plans is generally not allowed. Is that right, Sandra?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I believe, I mean, this is more HR related, but I believe probably dental, vision, hearing aids coverage, maybe you could get away with it. You cannot be in two drug plans at the
Right.
same time.
Yeah.
Okay, is Here USA available if you are living out of state?
Yes.
Okay. What does the long-term plan look like on your pay stub? Is that PSC Benefit Trust? I know I have it. I just don't even know where it's taken out of my pay.
Yes, that's a good question. On your pay stub, it's a little cryptic when you look at it. It says things like, yeah, exactly, PSC, and you can't, and you don't know if some of you actually have picked up a catastrophic plan offered through NICET years ago, and it's unclear if you're getting it through NICET or us or whatnot. So give us a call. We'll look a little deeper into our database and determine which plan you have, because it's a good question, because in many cases you haven't thought about your catastrophic plan for years. You've had it for years and you just really haven't thought about it. And into retirement, you may not even think about it for years, but you just see that deduction every month, and and you get curious about it. Give us a call. We'll look into our database. We'll refresh your memory as whether or not you have it through us or through NICET, and how to make a claim against it if you need to, that kind of thing. So yeah, some of those payroll deduction notifications can seem a little odd, but.
Right. Does SilverScript replace our welfare fund prescription plan? So I guess it's talking about CVS versus SilverScript. Like, what does that mean?
Right. Basically, as an active employee, you're in what's called the CVS Caremark plan. And then when you transition to a retiree, it shifts to a Medicare-based plan called SilverScript. The benefits are roughly the same. You really want to keep an eye on your prescription benefit plan. As we all know, there's a lot of very expensive drugs out there. If you take certain steps, like using a generic where possible, utilizing a CVS pharmacy, you'll be able to limit your copays and whatnot. But in retirement, be prepared for copays, especially if you're on brand name drugs that do not have a generic equivalent and things like that. But essentially, the CVS plan transitions from, as an active employee, CVS Caremark, and then into a Medicare-based program called SilverScript. And you'll get a new SilverScript card. Some of the most important cards you'll have will be your GHI card, your Medicare card, of course, as well as your SilverScript card. So
the key with that, just to add on to what Mike just said, is that if you are 65 or older when you retire,
correct.
If you're under 65,
yes,
you will continue with CVS Caremark until you get on Medicare Part B and SilverScript and everything else related to that. The next question, can I get Part D drug plan from the welfare fund if I'm not on a city health plan? I'm still working and I'm 77 years old. I'm on a Medigap plan from my dead spouse who is not a CUNY employee.
Excellent question. And I'm very glad that Debbie Bell is here and Ann Friedman is here, so I don't have to talk too much about the Medicare Advantage situation. But one of the things that the Welfare Fund did earlier this year, when the Medicare Advantage changeover was still on the table for retirees, was we looked into our bylaws and we determined that we had to clarify that if you were not receiving a city healthcare plan, you could still get your welfare fund benefits. Up until we clarified that, we were under the understanding that if you were not in a city healthcare plan, you were not eligible for the welfare fund benefits. But we discussed it with our trustees, we looked at our bylaws, and we determined that if for some reason you opt out of a city healthcare plan in retirement, you are still eligible for your welfare fund benefits.
Okay. Is SilverScript a welfare fund program or Medicare program?
It's a hybrid. I guess I would call it like 60-40, like more Medicare than welfare fund, but if you're over 65.
Do I have to use CVS? I guess they're active.
You don't necessarily have to. The best way to limit your copays is to think generic and think CVS. Now, there are other benefits such as actually the city, a city benefit pays for low dose statins for free if you go to Walgreens or Duane Reade, for instance. So there's some wrinkles here and there, but in essence, the best way to limit your copays is to utilize a CVS. But if you like your corner pharmacy, or if you like a Walgreens or whatnot, there's no one's going to reject your attempt to fill a prescription.
I have Mercer catastrophic major medical separately billed annually, but I really have no idea what it covers. I just know as to what you say.
Yeah.
Is this good to have?
Right. Yeah. So if you think about it, think of all those kind of horror stories you hear about a health problem in old age. You have a horrible fall. You find yourself in a rehab center for weeks at a time. The bills are mounting. You're watching your savings go away, leave your bank account rapidly, minute by minute. It's terrifying. So what a catastrophic care plan and what a long-term care plan does is gives you that peace of mind that they will pay up to, say, $400 a day for a nursing home. They'll cover bills that exceed the senior care plan, things like that. So we do have a much more detailed explanation of the plans. They're on our website, or you can always call me, and I'm happy to email you basically a document that explains all about the catastrophic plan. One thing that can look a little scary when you look at it is there is a $10,000 deductible, but that $10,000 can be met by a variety of different means. You'll find it relatively easy to meet that deductible through some of the expenses that you've already picked up. So, yeah, think along the lines of as the title describes it, a catastrophic injury or medical condition that otherwise you would not have coverage for.
Who do I contact about carrying over the catastrophic major medical?
As long as you pay those premiums, it carries right over. So what you have to do though is when you retire, you do want to maintain a automatic deduction, you have to contact the catastrophic underwriter. In our case, it's called the company's called AMBA, and you just have to change over your automatic deduction from your paycheck to your pension. And then, like I said, there's a period of a couple of weeks where you have to make an automatic payment. Many of our members choose to make the automatic payments anyway. They usually do so twice a year. If that's more convenient for you, you can actually give them a credit card number and that kind of thing. So it's whatever way feels more convenient to you. Yeah, it's as long as just think along the lines of any insurance plan. Keep paying those premiums. Don't miss them. Thankfully, I don't deal with a lot of folks who have missed a lot of premiums and they're in dire straits. We have a good relationship with AMBA and some of the other companies that underwrite these policies. And as long as you haven't missed 6 months of premiums, we can work something out. But do yourself a favor, pay those premiums, get it deducted automatically via your pension or a credit card, and you'll be in good shape.
Can you explain the difference between the Express Scripts and CVS Caremark drug plans that are available now?
Sure. Express Scripts is the company the city uses to operate its PICA program. And that's injectable drugs and chemo drugs. As active employees right now, if you do get injectable drugs or chemo drugs, that's through PICA, which is through the Express Scripts company. But once you retire and reach age 65, then that benefit is picked up through Medicare.
And then will long-term care will be offered again?
Not through us. I'd be surprised at this point. Now, keep in mind, many of you may have heard that in the fall, NYSET offered enrollment into a catastrophic care plan. NYSET's a great organization. They're one of the few organizations that I'm aware of that still offers a enrollment into a catastrophic plan, but they only do so rarely. It's, every couple of years, maybe. I'm hoping some of you on the call today took advantage of that NYSET offer and purchased the catastrophic plan. But it's rare. These programs these policies really are hard to come by these days.
Someone just asked, what is NYSET?
New York State United Teachers Union, good organization. You're probably a member.
And then
they offer all kinds of, and by the way, they offer all kinds of different kinds of benefits, things like legal advice. Your life insurance is through NYSET more than likely. And again, it's one of those little deductions that shows up on your pay stub and you're not sure about it. Give us a call. We'll work it out with you.
And I'll read this and I'll answer it. Do I have to be retired to get welfare fund benefits? Can I get any welfare fund benefits before I retire? So if you're a full-time active and when you were hired or at any point throughout, because there's open enrollment periods, you're able to get these benefits. I believe the majority of the individuals or the people on this conference are full-timers. If there happens to be an adjunct here, your eligibility for that is specified in the union's website, PSC CUNY. And, you have to teach a certain number of courses, certain hours to be able to be eligible for health and welfare fund benefits. So reach out to your HR office to find out if you're not in the welfare fund benefits getting this, why that is. Or maybe you were on, on a plan, picking up these benefits outside of CUNY. I think that's it.
Just in closing, I want to emphasize something that Jenna brought up just a little while ago, your address. I can't tell you the number of times I've spoken to a retiree who had a change of address and didn't notify primarily the city's Office of Labor Relations. It screws up everything. Your Medicare Part B check won't arrive. Your pension can be impacted. So one tip as you prepare to retire and as you move into retirement is just make sure on all the paperwork your address is correct. And if you do ever change your address in the future, just make sure that you've conducted the proper notifications to the people who need to know that, including the welfare fund.
Okay, and I'll just add that heard this from the union that you have to be a member of PSC, Professional Staff Congress, to be a member of NYSET. Okay,
correct.
So that was just information given to us.
Between you and I, some of the bigwigs at CUNY can get in if due to a little arrangement we have. But anyhow, yeah. But if you're in the PSC, you're probably in NYSET.
Okay. So that is it for us.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. And again, congratulations on your pending retirement. And we all wish you well.
Yeah, I think Debbie comes on now.
Hello, everyone. My name's Debbie Bell. I'm the former executive director of PSC, and I have been, since my retirement, working with the union around issues of health insurance as they affect retired city employees and now active city employees. And let me say to all of you, as you think about retirement, first of all, emphasize the importance of updating your address and also opening the mail that comes from the New York City Office of Labor Relations and the Welfare Fund. Don't just let it sit in a pile, because a lot of communications are still by snail mail as opposed to by email. And there can be important information there. The other thing, based on my spouse going through retirement at CUNY, is to observe that there is an enormous amount of paperwork that you will have to do. It will be very frustrating. You should make use of the HR office at your college. And if you still have questions, make use of Talin's offer to answer questions. You should also make use of Sandra's offer to assist, and the welfare fund generally being able to assist. Because it's, you think you're a faculty member or a HEO and you understand a lot of things, but the paperwork is enormous and confusing. Also, you should be sure to check with your retirement system. Having said all that, because I had a few extra minutes, I'm here to talk about what's going on with retiree healthcare, particularly those who are 65 and older and therefore in Medicare. If you're under 65 and if you have any dependents under 65, you continue to be covered by the active employee health insurance. Starting probably 2.5 years ago, the city began, in collaboration with the city unions, a proposal to move most Medicare eligible retirees and dependents to a Medicare Advantage plan. This represented a significant change from what was in existence. Most Medicare eligible retirees are in traditional Medicare and have a supplemental plan, and most of them have senior care, which is run by the same company that runs GHI, so you just transition into senior care to cover the additional costs that Medicare doesn't cover. And as you heard from Talene, you have had traditionally a choice of supplemental plans, but over 90% of city retirees chose to be in senior care. That is a plan where you retain traditional Medicare. Medicare pays, your bills up to 80% of the outpatient costs and up to 100% of the inpatient costs, and senior care pays for most of the rest. I mean, there obviously are cracks in the system that aren't paid for. I am not going to take you down the rabbit hole of what we have done over the last 2.5 years to fight this effort. But after a series of both legal and legislative efforts on the part of the city to impose Medicare Advantage on Medicare eligible retirees, the city signed a contract with Aetna Insurance Company to provide a Medicare Advantage plan that all Medicare eligible retirees and their dependents would be required to go into. That would be the only option once you hit 65, would be the Aetna Medicare Advantage plan. PSC was one of only a small number of unions that opposed this approach. The city and our union colleagues claimed this was necessary to save money for the city on health benefits, and it was necessary because otherwise they'd have to start charging premiums to active employees. A lot of rhetoric. There's been a lot of noise. You've probably seen it on the PSC website, in the PSC newspaper, and even in the New York Times and Daily News. There have been stories about retirees objecting to the city going down this road and forcing retirees into the Aetna Medicare Advantage plan. In July of 2023, a judge ruled that the city, permanent injunction against the city imposing the Aetna Medicare Advantage plan on Medicare eligible retirees and dependents. What that means is that retirees continue to be covered under traditional Medicare and or their choice of supplemental plans. Among those supplemental plans are a handful of Medicare Advantage plans that some retirees have chosen to join. which is fine. But as I said, 90% of city retirees who are Medicare eligible have chosen to be covered by senior care. So all those choices remain in effect. If you are choosing to retire now, over the next few months, those will continue to be your choices. Nothing has changed in terms of the options available to you. Now, the judge made this ruling in July. The city has appealed the ruling. It is unlikely that the appellate division will issue a decision on that appeal until late winter or spring at the earliest. So if you're planning to retire at the end of the fall semester, the end of January, you will still have the same choice of supplemental health plans that everybody else did. I would predict that whoever loses when that decision is issued will appeal to the final level of appeal, which is the State Court of Appeals, which means that any change would be delayed even further. But as we've learned over the past 2.5 years, there are a lot of twists and turns to this process, and it is very, very hard to predict where it is going to end up. But the main thing is it's not going to change. I'm pretty confident it's not going to change in the next 3 months. And therefore, if you're retiring at the end of the fall semester, you will have the same choice of supplemental plans. Now, let me talk a little bit about Medicare Advantage plans. They are also known in Medicare lingo as Part C. They are run by private companies, private insurance companies. So Medicare pays those private insurance companies to offer healthcare coverage, and in some cases, they also offer benefits that Medicare does not cover, such as prescription drugs, hearing benefits, vision benefits, benefits that we at PSC, when we retire, are lucky enough to have covered by the welfare fund. But out there in the rest of the country, a lot of people don't have access to hearing and vision and other benefits that these plans offer. The result has been that more than 50% of Medicare eligible retirees around the country are now in Medicare Advantage plans. This has become a growth industry for these private insurance companies, to the extent that there was one company about 6 months ago that announced they were going to be totally a Medicare Advantage insurance company. They're also attractive because whatever premium has to be paid over and above the Medicare Part B premium that's taken from your Social Security check is often very low or nothing. So for the city of New York, the attraction of having a Medicare Advantage plan is that Aetna is basically charging almost no premium for everyone who is enrolled. Whereas for senior care, the city of New York pays approximately $200 a month per enrollee. So they estimated that they could save something on the order of $500 million a year. The other part of this issue is that Medicare itself, the federal Medicare program, has, since the Bush administration since the late 90s, has promoted the idea of Medicare Advantage, in part because they thought it would be cheaper than regular Medicare, which it has not proven to be, and in part because they wanted to get out of the business administratively of managing a healthcare plan. That is a goal that is much more dominant when you have a Republican administration than it is when you have a Democrat administration. So why is the PSC opposed to Medicare Advantage? The union's opposed to Medicare Advantage both as a general policy and for the retirees that we represent. Broadly speaking, were opposed because it undermines traditional Medicare. And traditional Medicare has proven to be a cost-efficient, successful program for Americans 65 and older. And it so much so that the byword, the message around national health plan is Medicare for all. And what's going to happen if Medicare slowly disappears? And what's the basis for developing a national healthcare system? I don't want to bore you with too many numbers, but as of now, the federal Medicare pays more per patient enrolled in a Medicare Advantage plan than they do for patients enrolled in traditional Medicare. That's a problem. In other words, that national goal is not being met. And part of that is because the administrative costs associated with Medicare Advantage plans are 10 times that of the administrative costs associated with traditional Medicare. Why? Insurance companies have big operations and they pay big salaries to their executives, and they pay profits to their stockholders, so that federal Medicare dollars are going to pay to help subsidize private insurance executive salaries and profits. And this is why these companies want this business, because they realize they are making a lot of money. They can make a lot of money. So that's, when a Medicare Advantage plan was first proposed, the union's initial reaction was, this is a big policy mistake. Don't go there. Doesn't matter how much the city's going to save. We made a lot of arguments about how savings could be found elsewhere. And right, I'll get to the retiree chapter website in a minute. The other way that the Medicare Advantage plans are not a good thing is that they control the doctor and hospital networks. They can decide, I'm not going to have that hospital in our network. We're not going to pay benefits for people who have to go to that hospital. And we're not going to pay for those doctors. Many doctors nationally accept Medicare. Fewer doctors accept Medicare Advantage plans, partly because of the controls that those plans impose on them. The other way the Medicare Advantage plans both save money and reduce benefits for enrollees is they require patients frequently to get written prior authorizations in order to get screenings, to have surgery, inpatient, etc. So there's a hoop that has to be jumped through in order to get an awful lot of basic medical care. And sometimes patients can't jump through it, or doctors won't jump through it, or whatever. There are appeal processes, and most appeals are successful, but it turns out 85% of people who are turned down for a procedure don't appeal. What's the effect of this? Medicare Advantage is saving money because they're not spending as much money as traditional Medicare would on a whole array of procedures. Having said all this, Medicare Advantage plans can work for some retirees, particularly those who are relatively healthy. If your doctors are in the local Medicare Advantage plan, and in New York, Aetna has a lot of doctors in their plan, if you don't need a lot of procedures as part of your medical care, it can work. And as one retiree said in a chapter meeting, you can benefit from certain things like a silver sneakers program, etc. The union's point has been it's fine for Medicare Advantage plans to be an option for retirees. They have for years. Aetna has been the Aetna Medicare Advantage plan has been an option. Cigna has been an option. HIP-VIP is essentially a Medicare Advantage plan. That has been an option for people in HIP who retire. That's fine. We want retirees to have choices. So that's kind of in a nutshell, and it's a nutshell that sort of is reducing an awful lot of hard work by retirees, et cetera, and the union into 10 minutes or 15 minutes. But what should you do and what should you know as you go into retirement? One, go to the, Anne will probably screen share this when she speaks. If you want more details about things I have skipped over very superficially, you can go to the retiree website and find a lot of the material that we posted over the past 2.5 years about Medicare Advantage plans, problems with them, how we're fighting them, etc. The main thing you can do when you retire is join the retiree chapter. They have made it their business to keep retirees informed every step of this process. There's material on the website. There's time and chapter meetings devoted to talking about the latest updates, talking about what retirees need to do to prepare for any change in their health care. We have diligently answered retirees' questions, and people have a wide variety of health coverage issues as they retire, as do their spouses and their dependents. And we have made a great deal of effort to hear those questions, raise them with the City of New York, and also try to provide people with answers on the website. Every retiree chapter meeting, there's time set aside for updates and if there have been changes to answer questions. So I'm going to pause at this point, and I will check and see. I don't know who's monitoring questions for me, but if there are questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I've got you, Debbie. And it's
Okay.
not a question. It's a little bit of praise, which you always deserve. Great explanation. Thank you for your work.
Thank you. Okay.
Other than that, it's quiet.
Okay. Then we'll move on to Anne to talk about the retiree chapter.
There's one quick question that just came in.
Okay.
Mike, if you could ask it.
Hold on. Oh, I'm sorry. My
Oh, yeah, I
computer's
see
a little
hands.
slow.
Hands
Yep.
flying across the screen.
Yeah, we got 3. I'm sorry, Debbie. Spoke too soon.
Sure.
If we are forced to do the Aetna plan, are the premiums out of pocket or covered?
No premiums. If you're forced to do the Aetna plan, there will be no premiums.
Okay.
Now,
Can I just clarify that they'll still be subject to the Medicare Part B premiums?
yes. Yes. In any event, you will always continue to have your Medicare Part B premium and IRMA if they charge you that deducted from your Social Security. Thanks, Anais.
A couple thank yous and a question. What is senior care?
Senior care is the health plan. It's from Emblem, which also manages GHI. It is a preferred provider network plan, but what it is really is it supplements Medicare. Medicare pays for you when you retire and enroll in Medicare. You'll receive a big booklet. I think they still mail them, telling you what Medicare pays for. Simply put, superficially put, they pay for most inpatient procedures and stays, but only 80% of outpatient care at the rates they set. So doctors have to accept their rate, and then Medicare only pays 80%. Senior care pays the additional 20%.
Okay. That's all I'm seeing in the Q&A.
Okay, great.
Oh, hold on. Hold on. couple popped in. Can you tell us how to enroll in senior care through Emblem and what does it cost?
That is, you will get paperwork from, that's all part of the massive pile of paperwork you will get from your HR office when you retire, if you are Medicare eligible. You're 65 or older.
Okay.
And right now it costs nothing.
New question. I keep paying $450 for my own Medigap plan and not getting a city plan because I don't want to be switched to Medicare Advantage. If I go on GHI Senior and Traditional Medicare, can the city automatically switch me if they win?
Under simple answer is yes, they could automatically switch you if they win. But
Do we
right
want to
now,
do we want to talk about the opt-out process?
no, because it doesn't exist. I mean, it does, you know, well, our goal, I think, and I think the goal of the retiree organization that's filed all these lawsuits is, in essence, that retirees should have choices. That senior care or something like it should be a choice. That if people want to go into Medicare Advantage, fine, go. But that there should be choices, and that retirees shouldn't have to pay premiums for something like senior care, as they don't now.
Okay. Talene's taking care of one of the other questions. And what if I'm traveling out of state? Meaning in general?
Well,
I'm
I
not
think
sure the context of that.
yeah. So Medicare is a national program. If you're a retiree, Medicare is a national program. That drives, so if you're traveling out of state and you end up in a hospital that accepts Medicare, you see a doctor that accepts Medicare, that should be paid, and senior care will pay the coverage. What Medicare does not do is it does not cover out of the country healthcare.
I'm not seeing any. Are there any long-term care benefits?
Medicare does not provide long-term care benefits. If you find yourself in an institution, it does not pay for the institutional care. If you are in an institution and have to be hospitalized, if you are Medicare eligible, Medicare will pay for the health care costs related to that, and your institution should work with you to ensure that those healthcare costs are paid through Medicare.
Okay. A couple more. What if the state I am living in, what if the state I am living in, if we are forced into Medicare Advantage, isn't on the Aetna Medicare Advantage plan?
Aetna claims Aetna is a national program, and their MA plan is a national program, and they claim that they've got doctors everywhere, so, you know, and facilities everywhere. So in the event that you are forced onto the Medicare Advantage plan and you live in a state other than New York, you should do some work to figure out which hospitals, which doctors accept the Aetna plan. This is something that we worked with current retirees on at great length on the retiree chapter website, answering various questions related to people who don't live in New York State. Because one of our problems that we voiced to the city was they did not give adequate. New York State handles retiree health coverage well, and they have good guidelines that insurance companies have to follow. That's not true in every state, and we didn't believe that the city did not adequately consider the large number of retirees who live in places like North Carolina and Florida and the Southwest, where the state guidelines are much looser or not there relative to what's in New York State.
Getting back to long-term care, are there any supplemental long-term care programs for purchase?
That's a question for you, I think. Not through Medicare, not through.
Yeah, I mean, there may well be, but if so, they're going to be really pricey. So keep an eye out on NYSET. They do every once in a while offer a catastrophic care plan. So if you're part of NYSET and you're part of the PSC, they do occasionally offer enrollment into a catastrophic care plan. Are there advantages to having Medicare Advantage if I retire outside the US?
No. Because Medicare, if you retire outside the United States, Medicare is not applicable outside the United States, and therefore a Medicare Advantage plan would not be applicable outside the United States.
Not seeing any further questions.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Debbie.
Okay. Am I unmuted?
You're unmuted and you are live. We're seeing you.
I am unmuted and I am live, and I have something weird looking behind my head. I don't know what it is. Hello, everybody. My name is Ann Friedman. I noticed that at first somebody wrote Annie Friedman, which I was thinking about changing, and I did change because I don't use that name anymore. But it does remind me of when I was a youngster and I was called Annie, but I'm not a youngster anymore, and right now I'm a retiree. I'm a relatively young retiree. I won't tell you how old I am, but our retiree chapter is a really amazing group of people who span anywhere from ages 65 all the way to the upper 90s. And we are 3,000 strong, growing. And my job today is to encourage you to, when you officially retire, excuse me, to join our chapter. You'll have to excuse me, my voice is, I don't know what's happening with my voice today, but I'll do the best I can. In order to join the chapter, you have to make an affirmative decision. You have to shell out a bargain price of $85 if you worked full-time, $40 if you were an adjunct, and you will get a letter from me about that. You will get information from the membership department about that, and you can also join online. You know, my job is a little different here. I think I have maybe the happier job of talking to you a little bit about what happens on the other side once you wade through all the paperwork that is required. Debbie mentioned that. Once you take in the wealth of information that's been offered to you today, once you begin to make some of the important decisions that you have to make in order to retire, and those are not easy decisions to make. And I know that I retired in 2018, but prior to that, I went to at least 2, if not 3, of these conferences and spent a lot of time talking to people who had retired, talking to the resources at the reunion, trying to make the decision as to what is the best path for me. And so retirement, the prospect of retirement is just wonderfully exciting. I mean, it's the greatest job that you will ever have. If you're lucky enough to be healthy and to have a decent pension and a good health plan, as we still do, then the world is your oyster. And people, do different things during retirement. spend time with family, travel, pursue hobbies. But one really important thing that we hope that you will do and find useful is to stay linked to your union. This is the union that has shepherded you, whether you were aware of it all the time or not, shepherded you through your career as an academic or an academic professional, whether full-time, whether part-time, whether HEO, whether CLT, whether continuing ed. Your union has been there for you. And I never realized when I was younger and thinking about retirement and got a sense of what the retiree chapter does, and I'll tell you a little more about that in a minute. I never dreamed how important it would be to have a strong, vibrant retiree chapter with its own executive council committee, its own delegates to NYSET and AFT, its own delegates to our PSC EC, to be a strong part of our union when we needed it most. And that is during this continued fight around our healthcare benefits and privatization. I'm not going to comment on the benefits of Medicare Advantage or the disadvantages of Medicare Advantage, except to remind us what we all know, that public in general for us is better than private. Medicare Advantage companies are looking to make a profit. And the way they make a profit is they have to cut some things. And if they cut some things, that's going to affect our benefits. Anyway, a big part of our work over the last few years has been to struggle together with the union. The union has had our back on this, to work together with other groups in the city that have mutual goals, because this change to Medicare Advantage is not only affecting the PSC, but is affecting city workers, 250,000 city workers. Now, I'm having trouble connecting to the webpage to show you, but we have an extensive retiree webpage that offers an extensive amount of information. It gives you the whole history of this Medicare Advantage health struggle. It's not 100% up to date, but within the week, it should be 100% up to date. We have developed resources. Debbie has been a very integral part of developing those resources for you to answer all the kinds of questions that come up when and if you have to make a decision about whether or not to accept a Medicare Advantage plan or stay on traditional Medicare and purchase a senior care option. Now, we are still in court on this. Nothing has changed. No decisions have to be made at this point. We don't know what's going to happen with the court cases. But there is a detailed Q&A section on the retiree website that will help you answer lots and lots of questions that can help you to make your decisions. Now, as Debbie said, when we meet once a month, we've been meeting on Zoom since the pandemic. We find that when we meet on Zoom, especially for our seniors, we get a much larger turnout. We've had up to 500 people on a Zoom meeting. And that is where we provide information for you about what is going on with the healthcare struggle. It's where we hear from you so that you can help us strategize on what to do. Now, also on that webpage is a chart developed by our secretary, Bonnie Nelson, that gives you different scenarios about different senior care plans that you might choose to purchase should you be forced to make that decision, and should we be forced into Medicare Advantage, either taking Medicare Advantage or staying on traditional Medicare and purchasing the plan that would cover, I think, what Debbie referred to as about 80% of our costs. Medicare doesn't cover everything. But aside from that, and before we got into this struggle, I never thought that as a retiree, I would still be struggling with the boss. And here the boss is the city. This is Mayor Adams' plan. He wants to save some money by forcing us onto Medicare Advantage. I never thought that I would be fighting with the boss. I thought we would be doing the kinds of wonderful things that retirees get to do together, and that our chapter still makes sure that we do. And that is having regular monthly meetings on various topics of interest, intellectual topics, topics related to politics, topics related to culture, topics. We just had a very interesting program on Monday about what's going on with attacks on academic freedom and universities across the United States. We had a renowned speaker, Ellen Schrecker, speak to us about academic freedom. And we had a speaker, Katie Rainwater from Florida, who's on the front lines in Florida, where we know some of the biggest attacks in the so-called red state attacks on academic freedom are taking place. So we just had that. So each month we will have a program on a different topic. Sometimes we hear from outside experts. Sometimes we hear from our own retirees or our own members. Last spring, we had a wonderful program presented by Penny Lewis, our secretary, and Carolina Munoz, who wrote this book. I don't know if you can see it. It's called A People's Guide. Well, it's not coming up. A People's Guide to New York City. And it's a fascinating tour around New York City of different neighborhoods that we never would have thought to visit, and that have a real people's history, have a progressive history. And then we followed that talk with a walk. Penny took us on a walk down on the Lower East Side, and then to lunch for Francis at Francis Tavern. We have walking tours, we have book groups, we have a group now reading ex-Zendi's book 400 Souls. That is a book group that's being sponsored by our chapter's anti-racism committee, and we have about 15 retiree members who have joined that group monthly, and we have discussions led by different members of the group. So the real strength, of course, is always in the members, and that's true for any union. We are the second biggest chapter in the union, second to the cross-campus chapter. We have about 3,000 members, and the stronger we are, the more we can fight for the social safety net protections that we need, and the more resources that we have for ideas on programming. We have our own newsletter, Turning the Page. You're welcome to write for that. So we welcome you to join us when you actually do retire. The transition is not always an easy one. It's an exciting one, right? I know from my own experience, very exciting to move into retirement. And I had lots of plans, you know, I was going to do this and I was going to do that. And I actually did some of those things, but not all of those things. And I was ready to stop working, but I still wanted to keep in touch with my colleagues from my own school, but also to meet colleagues from across the university. And that's what you can do if you come and join us for $85 or $40 a year at the retiree chapter. So hope to see you soon, whether you're retiring in December or further down the line. Please write to us at retirees@pscmail.org if you have any questions. I read that mail every day, and I'm happy to answer your questions. If you'd like to come to a meeting before you're officially retired, let me know, and we'll get you the Zoom link. So I think that's pretty much enough for a very long day for everybody. I don't know if there are any questions.
Hold on, Ann. Starting my video. Bear with me, my video is not working, but can everyone hear me?
Yes, Michael.
Yes.
Okay.
I can hear you, yes.
Okay. There we go. Looks like a fair amount of these questions were more for me.
Yeah, I was hoping somebody could help me share the retiree webpage. I can't see, my computer is not cooperating with me today. I was going to show people the webpage, but you really should go and look at the retiree webpage. It's a very rich page. It's active. It changes, you know, as things change, and you'll get a lot of information there. I'm sorry about that I can't share it with you.
And you'll see the question there. Is there an option of paying a lifetime fee instead of the $85 yearly fee?
Not yet, but it might be an interesting idea, and we can certainly pursue it if somebody thinks that that's a good idea. I mean, I would pay a lifetime since I know I'm going to live to 150. You know, I'm sure I'll get a bargain, but it's a good question.
Somewhat unrelated, but a good question. What if you're retiring with a disability? What other support services are offered? Let's put that out there to the general population.
Yeah. Well, I know, I mean, I can say that we do have retirees with disabilities, active retirees with disabilities. We have people on our executive committee with disabilities. And so there is certainly a community there of people that you can link into. In terms of what our chapter does specifically, that I don't think so. How would that, anybody else have any answers on that?
I'm wondering how robust Medicare's coverage is for certain disability benefits. You know, one thing as everyone considers moving, as everyone gets ready to retire and applying for and signing up for Medicare, Medicare.gov is a great website. Another organization that can be really helpful is the Medicare Rights Center, which is an independent nonprofit. And the Medicare in general is a helpful entity, and is generally you can get some of these answers fairly quickly. The Medicare Rights Center is, like I said, is an independent nonprofit. It's 800-333-4114. That's a good organization to sort of if you feel that you're not getting the best answer, you can always triple check with the Medicare Rights Center. Let's see. How many retirees are still living in New York City and voting for New York City council members?
Oh, my. I don't have that number, but I will say that when it came time to lobby our city council people and to testify at city council, we had hundreds of people doing so. I think, well, I can't really say. Felicia, do you have any idea on the number of retirees that still live in the state, in the city?
I don't have that information. I'll have to probably contact our alleged department to find out that information.
I think new question, is there a 9/11 CUNY group? I assume you mean 9/11
CUNY group.
the terrorist attack, not 9/11.
Not that I know of. You mean a support group or?
Hold on. Yes, so in other words, I'm sure there are many CUNY employees who were in Manhattan on that awful day, and that's an interesting question, interesting suggestion.
It is an interesting question. I'll tell you, the one thing about retiree chapter is we're really open to, I mean, if you want to form a group, you have a particular interest and you can pull a few people together. I mean, we can help you facilitate that. That is certainly something that we could do.
I'm not seeing additional questions at the moment. I think we are good.
Someone is asking for and contact information. I guess you could tell us your email, or I think that's probably the better.
Okay, I'm going to put in the chat.
Oh, why don't you say it and I'll type it, because the answers are on the Q&A.
Oh,
not the chat.
retirees at pscmail.org.
ANNE.
Just write retirees at pscmail.org.
Oh, retirees at PSCmail. Okay. Okay. I think we're good.
Oh, late one, Sandra. What percentage of retirees are TIAA versus TRS?
Oh, the overwhelming majority are TIAA. I would say 90 or so percent. I mean, I'm TRS, but the reason for that is I came from the Board of Education. I had TRS. I kept TRS. I'm happy with TRS, but you know, when you're young, you don't think about these things in the way that you do when you're actually ready to retire. But most people go into TIAA. We have counselors, you know, for both of those who can advise you.
Well, thank you, Anne. We have come to the end of our fall pre-retirement webinar. It has been a great pleasure hosting this event, which has been informative and participatory. Given the many questions that I saw in the Q&A, and again, I want to acknowledge and reiterate our sincere thanks to the panelists and for their information. It was very informative. I also want to thank Annie Sirkin, PSC Associate Executive Director, who put so much work and effort in organizing the pre-retirement webinar with me. And also want to thank Brian, our tech from Spark Street, who ensured that we had a great technical experience in the webinar. Just to remind you all that a link to the recording will be emailed to all participants sometime next week. And you should have a link to the Google folder with all the PowerPoints. And again, I want to thank everyone for being here today and have a great rest of your day. Thank you. Bye, everyone.